Why is New World so popular? Why is New World good? Why is New World so hyped? I'll tell you why, and it's not any of the reasons that you think. New World is labeled as an MMORPG, but it's not just an MMORPG. Let's look at some of the best and worst qualities of different genres of games. Specifically, let's look at MMORPGs, typical MMOs, survival games, MOBAs, and shooter games. Ugh, what a weak fish. To start off, let's look at MMORPGs. Some of the pros of MMORPGs are they're immersive, story-driven. Oftentimes there's dungeons and other types of game modes that can give you a sense of accomplishment, like raids, and sometimes there's PvP oriented into the game. But the biggest pro of MMO games are that they're immersive. Now, one of the cons about MMORPGs, and this is the main con, is that they're extremely complex. Now, some players like complex games. For example, I love complex games. That's why I really love MMOs, from a general standpoint. But most players find complex games. Ooh, this might be a big fish. Hold on, guys. I need to catch this fish because this one's a little bit tougher to catch, and I would like to catch it. It's a medium salmon. That's stupid. Some players like the complex idea behind MMOs, but for the most part, most players don't like extremely complex games, and the reason is because when games are extremely complex, it can be very difficult for new players to get accustomed to the game. And within too short of a time span, they end up giving up and quitting because it takes too long to really learn and understand the game. Oh, I got a fish sword. Get some iron out of that. But that is the major con to MMORPGs. Now let's look at survival games. The pros to survival games are typically that they are open world and there's lots of freedom. There's no direct line you have to follow. They're not like MMOs where there's a story-driven line that you follow of quests. You pretty much do whatever you want. Another major pro to survival games is that there's a very deep crafting aspect to the game with resource gathering and management. Oh, what kind of an aquatic snail. Now, the biggest con for survival games is oftentimes they're very PvP focused, and because of that, there's a very high risk to them when you're playing. It can be very easy to die, and when you die, oftentimes there's a very big loss associated with that death. Don't be coming near me. Stay away. Having those large losses with each death, with oftentimes having multiple deaths, that can cause players, especially new players, to quit earlier than you would hope due to just not having fun. When you die too often and you lose all of your work and effort you put into it, a lot of players don't want to put up with that and they just leave the game because they want to move on to something that they can enjoy, longer term without having to risk losing all of their hard work from a simple death due to starvation, thirst, or some wild creature or an enemy player killing them. Now let's talk about MOBAs. The pros to MOBAs, and guys, there is a reason we're talking about these different genres. I promise. Wait till the end. The pros to MOBAs are that they are very simple to learn, but extremely difficult to master and get skilled at. MOBAs can be played casually, as well as extensively or even hardcore. There's multiple playing options as well to MOBAs because there's multiple characters, and you can easily switch between each one whenever you want to try something new. The biggest pro, though, that I want to talk about with regards to New World is the fact that MOBAs are typically very simple to learn, difficult to get skilled at. The cons to a MOBA are that they are each a single match, and there's no in-depth character development because of that. While in each match you get to develop your character, another aquatic snail, you get to develop each character. Once the match is done, you're done. Now let's talk about shooter games. Shooter games, you have multiple weapons with different strengths and weaknesses to each and every weapon. Every weapon is important in a different situation, and each weapon has its own strength and its own weakness. Just like a MOBA, shooter games are easy to learn, but difficult to master or get skilled at. The cons to a shooter are pretty much the same as a MOBA. The cons are that each match is a single match and there's no in-depth character development. And on top of that, though, there's typically no skills or abilities. A lot of times people who like shooter games are players who really enjoy FPS style games, and players that enjoy MOBAs are players that enjoy RPG and MMO style games. Now, what does this all have to do with New World? Let me tell you. New World is not just an MMORPG. New World has the best qualities between all these different game genres, incorporated into one single game that they just summarize as an MMORPG. Along with that, it doesn't have any of the cons. New World does its best at maximizing the pros and minimizing the cons, and therefore attracting a very large potential player base. Primarily, New World is an MMORPG because of the fact that it's a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. There's a storyline, there's quests, there's character development, and it's massively multiplayer online. In terms of the gameplay itself, let's look at all the pros. It's immersive and it's story-driven. There are dungeons and there are multiple accomplishments you can have in the game. Therefore, it's got all the pros of a typical MMORPG. The cons of typical MMOs is that they're very complex. New World, while it is very complex, it's also very simple to learn, just like MOBAs and shooters. There's only 3 skills per weapon, guys. Each weapon has a different combo type of attack, and each weapon has different abilities that you can use with it with a maximum of 3 at a time. That is extremely easy to learn, but you can get skilled and spend a lot of time getting skilled at it and mastering each weapon. That's all the pros of an MMO, a MOBA, and a shooter. And on top of that, there's multiple weapons, just like in shooter games, that you can use and switch out at any point, just like shooter games. And MOBAs, you can switch your character at any point in terms of what playstyle you're using. Yes, you develop one single character and you have character development, but at any point you can say, you know what? I don't want to use a spear anymore. I want to use the battle axe. And then you can start learning the battle axe. Another snail, nice. And you can start using your battle axe and you have a totally different type of playing style, different character that you're using essentially. So all the pros of a MOBA, shooter, and MMO. On top of that, New World is an open world game. There's lots of freedom. While it has a direct storyline that you can follow, like in a typical MMO, you also don't have to follow it. You can do whatever you want in the game. That's why there are direct quests that you can get from NPCs, but there's also a town board of just general quests you can take because they know that some players don't want to have to follow a very direct storyline. They want to just explore and do whatever comes up. On top of that, New World has a very detailed PvP system. You can flag yourself for PvP at any point and attack other PvP players or be attacked by other PvP players at any point while you're traveling around. Now, the common interpretation of that is that most players won't be flagged, and the players that are flagged are probably going to be highly leveled and hardcore players. While that might be true in some situations, it's also not true. The reason is because each and every territory, I can't pull up my map right now because I'm in the middle of catching a fish, but I'll show you guys here in a sec, but each and every territory is controlled by a specific guild or company, and each of those guilds or companies are part of a specific faction. If your faction controls a territory, you get benefits. If your company or guild controls a territory, you get even more benefits. The way you control a territory is through PvP. You have to engage in a war against the controlling faction or group. The way you do that is you have to gain influence in the area, meaning you have to be flagged for PvP in that area and kill enough people to gain influence. Because of that, you will have players running around in PvP who may not necessarily be primarily PvP players, and that's because they're trying to position themselves to claim a new territory. Do you see where I'm coming from, where I say the game is very complex, but also very easy to learn? You don't have to do all that. You don't have to. You don't even have to learn how to do it. You can just play the basic game and still enjoy yourself. So for all these reasons, New World is not just an MMORPG. It's kind of like an MMORPG with heavy survival, MOBA, and shooter elements to it. And I didn't even really bring up the fact that survival games have very deep crafting aspects. New World has one of the deepest crafting aspects of any MMORPG. The reason is because it has heavy survival elements. We are just going along with the fishing, guys. I gotta make more videos while I'm fishing. This will be good. It's hard to just sit and fish all day long while you're playing, but when you're talking at the same time, it works out. I'm not gonna lie. This is a tough fish. It's another snail! 2 other reasons why New World is super popular, by the way, guys, is because of the fact that number 1, it was made by Amazon. Now, you can say whatever you want about Amazon. At the end of the day, Amazon is a very large company, lots of money, and lots of backers. Amazon wants this game to be successful. Because of that, they're going to put in a lot of time, effort, energy, and money into the game. They're going to continuously work on the game, they're going to improve the game, add new content to the game, this is going to be a focus for them. That means that a lot of the common complaints about New World will likely be fixed very quickly, to be honest. A lot of people have complained about the story aspect of the game and that it's too simple or basic for them. And honestly, I think Amazon will correct that very quickly. I think they're going to add a lot of new quests, a lot of new storylines, and I don't think that complaint will last very long. I think that is one of the things Amazon will likely work on. I think they're also going to add a lot of new content fairly quickly. I think they're going to add multiple new weapons, new abilities, new skills. I think things will get complex, and eventually I'm sure they'll add new maps to explore. Whether that's another island, maybe they add some ocean qualities where you build boats and ships, who knows. The point is that Amazon is a large company. They're going to continue to work on the game because they want it to be successful, and because of the potential that there is with that adds to the popularity to a game like this. The other big thing to note as to why New World is so popular is all of the gameplay basics are pretty solid. They did a really good job with making the game itself a very good starting point. It's not like when Cyberpunk came out and half the game is broken and things don't work and there's constant glitches and problems. It's not like that. It's had its fair share of problems, you know, with the queue and the servers, but those are things that are due to the fact that at the initial launch there was just a huge influx of players that came. But these problems will self-correct themselves, and they will work to correct them as well, and things will get better with those regards pretty quickly. Aside from that, the gameplay has been smooth, solid, no real issues. For all these reasons, I believe that is why New World has been so popular, so hyped, and why it's ultimately such a good game. Now, if you've been considering purchasing New World and you haven't already, please look in the description down below. There's a link that you can click to buy the game through that. I will actually get a commission for that, and it'll help support me and the channel if you buy the game in that way. If you don't want to, no worries at all, but it's totally free for you. You don't have to spend anything extra. You're just buying the game that you're already planning on buying, and it helps support me, so I would really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much if you do that. That being said, I highly suggest you get the game if you haven't already. I think it's a fantastic game. I've been enjoying the game a whole lot. It's been a lot of fun, and this is the very first video that I'm obviously posting for New World on my Darksmith MMO gaming channel, but I will be posting lots and lots more. So if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the game in New World and you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button down below. It really will help me out, and you'll stay up to date and notified whenever I release new World content. Also, please hit that like button. It'll really help me out. Lets YouTube know that it's a good video. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the game. Let me know what you think so far. Let me know what you think of my analysis as to why the game is so popular down below. My name is Dark, and I will see you next time.